あれのことですね。わかりました。封印され恐れられた禁断の力を使いましょう。ビジョンアイ
Hello everyone, I'm Kuya the Ghost, and I'm just a normal guy who loves video games. I'm a certified waifu expert and a veteran gacha game enjoyer. Now that I've gotten my credentials out of the way, let's get into it. Who is the most unjustly and frustratingly forgotten Nikke? Most people could easily argue that it's someone from one of the smaller squads, a character that barely appears in the story, or some unreleased or obscure Nikke without a fanbase at all. For example, Epinel, Julia, etc. But I think the answer should be a lot more nuanced than that. Relatively speaking, and all things considered, I'd say it's most definitely Neon, and I know I'm not alone. As I'm sure you already know, she's a member of Counters. As such, she's among the very first characters every player meets. She's appeared as a main character in the story for years, with a very interesting and sometimes even mysterious role. Yet, somehow, she feels like she's been left behind by both the community, and worst of all, by Shift Up themselves. The tragic part is she doesn't deserve that one bit. Let me explain. When Nikke launched, Counters wasn't just a squad in the game, they were Nikke. They're the face of the franchise. Rappy, Anise, and Neon worked perfectly together from the very beginning, both visually and as characters. Their arguments felt natural, their teamwork felt earned, and despite their constant bickering, they always recognized and relied on each other's strengths. The chemistry between the three was one of the biggest reasons Nikke's story resonated with so many players and kept them invested from the start. That's why what's happened over the past few years feels so strange, because somewhere along the way, Neon quietly disappeared from the spotlight while Anise and Rappy consumed it. Just look at how the other two have grown. Rappy receives prominent marketing, tons of costumes including multiple premium gacha skins, she appears in the majority of big events as the commander's sidekick, and has a massive amount of merchandise. Anise continues receiving skins as well, memorable events of her own, and constant attention. The latest example is the 3.5 anniversary event, where she was front and center as part of an entirely new K-pop idol group. Anise Star launched alongside a gorgeous premium costume and a second idol outfit, both available through the costume gacha. Even Rappy got an idol skin during Anise's event. And then there's Neon. Her overspec version arrived completely disconnected from the idol celebration event. It just appeared there as a recruitment banner. No extra skin, no flashy marketing, no grand celebration for the Queen of Firepower. You'd think this was an opportunity to give Neon at least a Battle Pass skin, but as I mentioned earlier, that went to Rappy. Again. At least she got a real cool rock song that sounds like a Home Depot commercial. I'm sure Red Hood would have loved it. Now, to be fair, thank God she's finally a genuinely powerful Nikke. After how badly Neon Blue Ocean's kit was botched, I'm glad her overspec version is actually useful. But even still, Neon Vision Eye just feels obligatory. Like Shift Up looked at a dusty old to-do list and said, fine, I guess we should release the Neon thing too. Just stick it with the Anise event, and make damn sure Anise is still far more powerful in the meta. Then they immediately moved on to promote the next Cinderella banner and Dorothy rerun. At least they remembered to stick the Blue Ocean rerun behind a list of other summer Nikkes. Maybe that's an unfair characterization, but that's genuinely the impression her treatment gives me. When new promotional artwork is released, Neon is often missing entirely or relegated to a tiny doodle tucked away in the corner. You have to pull out your magnifying glass and play Where's Waldo to find her, except half the time she isn't even there at all. When exciting announcements happen, most players expect Neon to be left out. That's an incredibly strange position to be in for one of the characters who hoped to find Goddess of Victory Nikke from day one. And when you consider how prominent she is in the story, and with how much care they seem to have put into keeping her interesting, her exclusion from everything else just feels so much more bizarre. Which brings us to the skin problem. One of the biggest ways a gacha game shows love to its characters is through skins. They're exciting, they generate fan discussion, and they keep characters feeling fresh. They renew interest. Some Nikkes receive costume after costume. Many receive incredibly elaborate premium skins too. Meanwhile, Neon's only skin is for her basic version and released almost 4 years ago. Neon has received very, very little compared to the characters around her. Eventually, that starts sending a message. Whether intentional or not, it gives players the impression that neon simply isn't a priority, and perception matters. Over time, a lack of costumes, merchandise, and other promotional attention becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. One of the most common defenses I hear is,
Well, Nia just isn't popular enough. If people liked her more, she'd sell more skins and merch.
I don't really buy that. If one of your main characters isn't popular enough to justify supporting, that's not the audience's failure, that's Shift Up's failure. They're the artists, the writers, the character designers, the marketers, and ultimately the people deciding how much each character is presented. They control who gets the spotlight, who gets the memorable story moments, who receives the new costumes, and who appears in major promotional campaigns. True popularity doesn't just happen, it's cultivated over time. If you consistently invest in a character, players become invested too. Deniers say,
Neon skins would never sell.
my response is, have they even given that theory a fair test over the past 4 years? Nope. People point to her low usage rates.
No one uses Neon in story or PvP content.
Well, for years, she also lacked a usable kit. It's hard to expect players to use a character when she's consistently overshadowed in the gameplay meta. Whose fault is it that Neon is at the bottom of meta tier lists? Certainly not her own. To Shift Up's credit, like I mentioned earlier, at least they finally started correcting that with Neon Vision Eye. She's genuinely strong, and I've already noticed her appearing in far more player profiles than before. It's almost like when you give your main characters meaningful attention, players respond positively. Imagine that. Alright, let's talk a little bit about the merchandise. Here we can see tons of Anise figures on eBay for sale. These come from everywhere. Lottery prizes, limited time stuff, and a lot of just mass-produced stuff. You can see a lot of it is the sparkling summer skin. Some super expensive ones, some super cheap ones. Just a huge variety pack of all forms of Anise. It's a million different ones. Just keeps going and going. You got the Nendoroids and everything. And then we'll take a look at Rappies. Once again, a million different Rappies. Got her Red Hood Beach. Got her normal form beach skin, some Nendoroids, some acrylic stands, different poses of her OG model. We even got her alternate skin, the white version of her Elysian uniform. Yep. Tons and tons of Rappy figures. Alright, now lastly, let's look at all the different neon figures. Surely they'll have some, right? Well, we got a Nendoroid and some acrylic stands and some tiny chibi ones. Alright, tiny chibi, Nendoroids, tiny chibis, Nendoroids, chibis, Nendoroids. Little Viper action mixed in there. Tiny chibis, Nendoroids. A little pin, that's cute. Chibis, acrylic stands, alright. But not a single proper neon figure. It's all chibi stuff and Nendoroids. And it's just the one Nendoroid, just for sale 1,000 times, because that's all they got. It's honestly just shocking to see such a popular franchise that doesn't have a single proper figure of one of its main 3 characters for sale. Besides, of course, the simple Nendoroid and some tiny chibi things. It's absolutely insane. Even among all other forms of merch, she's surprisingly difficult to find. For someone who's supposed to be one of the original faces of the franchise, her merchandise presence feels insultingly small. I spend a lot of time in Taiwan, and Nikke is surprisingly popular there. Some people might not know about this, but overseas you can buy merchandise through themed lotteries. You pay a small price for some tickets and hope to get a good letter. Usually something like S being the best prize, like a huge expensive figure, then A being the next best, B slightly worse than that, and so on, until like M or something. I've seen many different Nikke lotteries, and they almost never include neon, but they almost always include at least something featuring Rappi and Anise. If it isn't a top prize figure of one of the two, there are at least little trinkets like pins or keychains. Neon has had some small prizes of her own in the past, but they've become increasingly rare, which is weird. I don't think adding a neon keychain or something would hurt lottery sales. Well, what do I know? Also, Hobby Sakura and Bandai Spirits make a lot of different Nikke figures, sometimes for the lotteries and sometimes just as random figures for sale. They range from cheap as heck to ultra premium, but obviously, as we already saw, they never include neon. I've seen them selling figures of Mitty from Made in Abyss, for fuck's sake. You cannot convince me in any universe that Mitty has more fans than Neon. That's crazy. And listen, I love Mitty. I actually teared up a little bit when she died, but that's not the point. Alright, let's move on. I want to talk a little bit about the Stellar Blade moment. I think the biggest example of Neon's neglect came with the Stellar Blade collaboration, Shift Up's biggest crossover event with its own IP. It was a unique chance to celebrate all of their flagship characters together at the same time. We were all excited to see Eve cosplaying as our favorite Nikkes. We got Rappi, of course, very cool. Anise, looking good. Obviously next should be Alice. Okay, that's cool too, I definitely love Alice. Alrighty, next is Dorothy. Okay, cool Pilgrim, got it. And last but not least, oh, that's it. Neon wasn't there. Nowhere to be seen aside from her discarded glasses at the bottom of a lake. Seeing Rappi and Anise without Neon felt weird. That's the moment it really hit me. I was left wondering, were they actually doing this on purpose? Forgetting just one member makes the absence impossible to ignore. Like, if it was just Rappi's outfit and that's it, then fine, I'd get it. She's essentially the main character. If it was just a few random other popular Nikke outfits not including counters, that'd be more acceptable too. But that's not the case. It was a deliberate choice not to include Neon. Again. It really feels like Shift Up is saying Neon simply isn't worth the effort. Fans immediately noticed too, so much so that they quickly made a mod to add her outfit as best they could. The fact that it has over 100,000 views and 50,000 downloads proves there's a genuine interest in having her in the game. Of course, memes started appearing. People joked that Shift Up had accidentally forgotten Neon yet again, but after enough examples, it stops feeling like a joke. Time and time again, I'm just left feeling disappointed. As always, I'm forced to accept that my favorite member of Counters has been omitted from the fun, or in this case, reduced to a pair of dirty, abandoned red glasses. It's a cruel irony to see her this way. And they didn't even get the glasses right. To wrap things up, I don't think Neon needs to become the next Cinderella or Dorothy. She doesn't need a million premium costumes. She doesn't need to dominate every event. I just think she needs to be remembered and acknowledged a bit more often outside of the main story. She's one of the original reasons many of us fell in love with Nikke in the first place. I can't speak for everyone, but I know she's the reason I got hooked on the story. She's been here since day one. She makes us laugh and smile. She works perfectly in parallel with Anise to be uplifting, inspirational, and hilarious. And sometimes pretty mysterious. Counters simply wouldn't be Counters without her. That said, she deserves so much more than she gets. So much more. So here's hoping Shift Up gives Neon a chance to shine. Give her a gacha skin so we can praise her with our wallets. Give her a fun new event where she gets to take the narrative lead. And for the love of all things Nikke, please, someone, anyone, just make a premium quality Neon Vision Eye figure. I will pay anything. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore Rappi, Anise, and just about every other Nikke. Yes, even Crow. Every character brings something unique to the table, and the combination of fantastic writing, memorable personalities, and incredible voice acting is part of what makes Nikke as a whole so engaging. At the end of the day, I think one of Nikke's cutest heroines still has plenty of firepower left to show. Maybe I'm wrong about all this, and the 4-year anniversary event will be the year of Neon. She'll get a huge event in her honor, new skins, and her Vision Eye figure might already be secretly in development. Gather around, Neon fans, and let's pray to the firepower gods to make it happen. I'm getting high on copium again, aren't I? Well, If you think Neon deserves more love, let me know down in the comments. And if you think I'm completely off base, that Neon belongs in the Shadow Realm, I genuinely want to hear your perspective too. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, and if you're interested in more videos like this, go ahead and tickle that subscribe button. Give it a little poke. I also stream games from time to time, so feel free to stop by and say hello if you're bored. I think I make for pretty decent second monitor content if I do say so myself. Anyway, I'm Kuya the Ghost. Thanks for watching. Ooh.